This is the Fourth and Short Football Podcast with your host, Justin. No CJ today. He had to work the late shift. So, unfortunately, you get the lame one today. We are going to be talking about the Sunday games, what happened, Monday's game, key injuries, and more. Always make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment to help the channel grow. And further ado, let's jump straight into it. So, the very first game we're going to go over is Houston and Carolina. It was a dogfight to the end, 13-15. Houston was winning. I called the game. I said Carolina was going to win this one. CJ said probably not, but I mean, Bryce Young, 235 yards, a touchdown. CJ Stroud, 140 yards for a touchdown. No interceptions thrown, which is good. The running backs really didn't do much. You had Devin Singletary with 30 yards on the ground and 13 in the air. Beck, who only had 2 carries for 1 yard for a touchdown, and then 1 reception for 8 yards and a fumble lost. Blackshear had 3 carries for 5 yards and 2 receptions for 26. Damian Pierce had 12 carries for 46 yards. He didn't do much either. Chupa Hubbard, 15 carries for 28 and 2 receptions for 26 yards. So the game was really boring. Adam Thielen had a really good game, 8 receptions for 72. Jonathan Mingo had 4 receptions, but it wasn't that great of a game. It wasn't something that you wanted to watch. And then you had the firefight between Dallas and the Rams. Dallas looked great, and I hate saying this. Dak Prescott looked good. He looked so good, and CJ is going to rip on me for that because he knows I don't want to say that. I hate Dallas. It's not a team I like, but boy did they look good. CeeDee Lamb was on fire. 158 yards in the air off 12 receptions, 2 touchdowns. Cooks had 3 receptions for 49 and a touchdown. Gallup's, 2 receptions. Turpin had a reception. On the other side, Puka, who I back very well, he didn't have a hot game. Cup didn't have a good game. The Dallas defense held the receivers down. Notre Dame faithful right here. Ben Skowronek got a touchdown for the Rams. I mean, it was not a good game for them. Darrell Henderson ran 31 yards and 54 in the air. Royce Freeman actually took the touchdown from him. Dowdle got a few carries for 18 yards. But it was a good game. 43-20 though. They ran through them. It was a blowout from the very beginning. And then we move on to the Minnesota and Green Bay game. Oh wow, this is not a good game. 24-10 to Minnesota. Jordan Love, he looked poor. 229 yards, touchdown and interception. He didn't look really well. He didn't. Kirk Cousins looked good when he was in the game. We'll talk about him later on in the episode and what is going to be happening with Minnesota. Cam Akers, he had a touchdown. He had only 19 yards off 9 carries. Alexander Madison had 31 yards on the ground for 16 and a reception for 2 yards. Aaron Jones had 7 carries for 29 yards and 17 yards in the air off 4 receptions. A.J. Dillon, he had 11 on the ground and 41 in the air off 5 receptions. Jordan Addison looked good in this game. 7 for 8 for 82 and a touchdown. And KJ Osborne, 8 for 99. Romeo Doubs had a touchdown off of 4 receptions for 18 yards. Jaden Reed had 4 receptions off 83. He looked really good. Christian Watson, he dropped so many passes in this game, 3 for 8. It wasn't good. And then T.J. Hawkinson, he looked really good, 6 for 9 for 88 and a touchdown. The Vikings had a pick. The Packers had a forced fumble and a fumble recovery and a blocked field goal. But that was a good game. Uh, and then you had the New Orleans Saints versus the Indianapolis Colts, 38-27 in New Orleans. Derek Carr didn't look terrible. 310 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did lose a fumble though. Gardner Minshew, he did not look that good. 2 touchdowns, an interception, 213 yards. Kamara, I called it. Dude was great. 17 carries, 60 yards, touchdown. And then 4 for 5 for 51 and a touchdown. And then I was surprised that they split between Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor. Zach Moss, 11 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown, and 1 reception for 8 yards. And so he had a decent day. And then Jonathan Taylor had 12 carries for 95 and 1 reception for 2 yards, no touchdowns. Pittman looked good, 8 for 13. He didn't get a lot of yards. He only got 40 yards, but he did save himself with a touchdown. Josh Downs looked good, 7 for 9 for 72. And Alec Pierce got involved, 3 for 5 for 41. Raheed Shaheed, he looked good. He was 3 for 3 for 153 yards and a touchdown. Dude was open. And then Michael Thomas, 4 for 7 for 68. Olave, 5 for 9, 46. He didn't look too great. Honorable mention, Taysom Hill, which I said he was going to have a down week this week. I was wrong. 44 yards in the air. He completed a pass for 44 yards. He had 9 carries for 63 yards and 2 touchdowns and a reception. And then Ogletree had a touchdown, 1 for 3 for 33 yards and a touchdown. The 1 reception looked really good, but other than that, he wasn't very involved, other than just defense or blocking. Sorry. The Saints did get an interception, and the Colts got a fumble recovery, but we lost, unfortunately. And then we go to the New England and Miami game. Miami looked really good in this game. Mac Jones didn't look terrible. He didn't look good, but he didn't look terrible. He looked like he needed a lot of help. Mac Jones, 161 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. And Tua was on fire. 30 for 45 for 324 and 3. 1 interceptions and a fumble lost. Ramondre Stevenson, I said he wasn't going to look good. He didn't. 10 carries for 39 yards and 2 receptions for 11. So their run game didn't go anywhere. Miami's rushing didn't do a whole lot either. I mean, Raheem Mostert got 13 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown. Jeff Wilson had 5 carries for 23 and 2 for 2 in the air for 14. Ahmed got 2 carries, 1 yard, and 4 for 4 on 16 yards. Tyreek Hill looked good, as always, 8 for 13 for 112 and 1. Jalen Waddle looked good, 7 for 12, 121 and 1. Honorable mention, Cedric Wilson got a touchdown. 1 reception for 1 yard and 1 touchdown. Chase Claypool got into the game, which I was surprised. He had a couple targets with a reception for 15 yards. So he might be someone to look at further on in the season as he goes with more snaps on the squad on practices. Kendrick Bourne, who we're going to talk about later, also had 3 for 4 for 36 and a touchdown. Douglas had a carry. 4 yards, 5 receptions for 24. Juju Smith-Schuster got a reception for a touchdown, but only 1 for 3 yards. Hunter Henry, 3 for 3 for 28. Mike Gesicki got a couple of receptions. Pharaoh Brown got a couple of receptions. Darren Smythe got a couple of receptions. We had 17-31 for Miami. It wasn't a bad game. And then we have the barn burner, the great, awful game. The Jets versus the Giants. Jets win in overtime, 13-10. Zach Wilson, looked bad. 17 for 36 for 240 and 1. 2 fumbles lost. Tyrod Taylor, who I said was not going to have a good game against this Jets defense, did not have a good game because he went out of the game. He got injured and left, which, funny enough, I didn't add him into the injuries. So, unfortunately, I made a mistake there, and I'll take care of it as we go. But the Tommy DeVito, who is a rookie, finished the game with 2 for 7 for -1 yard, 4 carries for 12 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, it was a bad game. Breece Hall had a really good game in the air. On the ground, not so much. He had 6 for 9 for 76 and a touchdown in the air, but 12 carries for 17 yards on the ground. So he couldn't run through them on the ground, but when he made up for it in the air. Saquon looked good, 36 carries for 128 yards and 3 receptions. He was basically the only offense they had. Only offense. It was all him. Garrett Wilson looked good. 1 carry for 6 yards and 7 receptions for 100 off 13 attempts. He did have some drops, but they weren't the greatest passes from Zach Wilson. Darren Waller, he got injured, so he didn't play. But he had 2 targets for 1 reception. Uzamoa, he only had 1 reception for 19 yards. Conklin had a couple targets but dropped the ball. Matt Breida had a couple carries. He wasn't very involved. Dalvin Cook wasn't very involved. Overall, it was a boring game. Alan Lazard had 6 targets. He went 3 for 45. Darius Slayton, he had -1 yard. Wide receivers were tore apart, and so were the tight ends. Offensively, the Giants did not have anybody other than Saquon Barkley. It was 100% Saquon. We'll move on to the Jacksonville and Pitt game. This was not a bad game. 20-10 Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence looked okay. He didn't look great. 292, 1 touchdown and 1 interception off 24 for 32. He had a carry for 10 yards. He didn't really run, which was surprising. At least in the week prior, he had some good runs, but he didn't run that much against Pitt. And then we had the Kenny Pickett injury during the game. So then they brought in Mitch Trubisky, who went 15 for 27, 138 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. You don't want Trubisky as your starting quarterback as Pitt. Unfortunately, you don't really want Kenny Pickett either. He went 10 for 16 for 73 yards. Neither quarterback really did anything. Travis Etienne looked really good, 24 carries for 80 yards. He did get a 2-point conversion. And then he went 3 for 6 through the air for 70 yards and a touchdown. Looked really good. Najee Harris, which is the big thing, he had 7 carries for 13 yards, but he had 5 receptions off 5 targets for 42 yards. That is something to keep an eye at. He got targeted 5 times with 5 catches. If they start throwing the ball to him more, he will be more fantasy viable. 10.5 points is not great, but he was only projected 10.58. So he did what he was supposed to. Well, Calvin Ridley, 6 for 10 for 83. Christian Kirk, 4 for 5 for 46. Deontay Johnson, 8 receptions off 14 targets for 85 yards. George Pickens, 5 targets, only 1 reception for 22 yards and a touchdown. If he wouldn't have had a touchdown, you would have hated playing him Sunday. Nobody else really. Calvin Austin, he had a couple targets, but nothing super fancy. Evan Ingram, 10 for 10 for 88 yards and a fumble lost. This man did not drop the ball. Now, he did fumble it, like, at the very beginning of the game, unfortunately. But he looked really good. Everything that went his way was in his hands. And then Brandon McManus, I'll give him a shout out because he got 2 50-plus field goals. So it was a really good game. It was fun to watch. And then we had the Atlanta versus Tennessee game. Holy cow. 23-28. Tennessee. I called this game. I said Tennessee was going to win. CJ did not listen to me. Now remember, on the next episode that we are together, he has to write "I love Colts" on his forehead for the entire episode. Granted, I also lost, so I have to, which we'll talk about that when that game gets up to. But yeah, Taylor Heineke played, and so did Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder got injured. We'll talk about that in the injuries, but he was 8 for 12 for 71 yards, 3 carries for 26 yards, and a fumble lost. And then Taylor Heineke came in after he got injured, 12 for 21, 175 yards, and a touchdown. The big one, Will Levis, rookie quarterback, first start, 19 for 29, 238 yards, 4 touchdowns. Wow. For fantasy, he was incredible. For the Titans, he was great. He helped them win. It looked great. The game was amazing. Derrick Henry, he broke that 100 yards, 22 carries for 101 and 4 receptions for 21 yards. Tajay Spears wasn't that viable. He had 3 carries for 27 yards and 3 receptions for 9. He didn't play all that much. Bijan came back to play this time. Thank God they didn't Bijan Robin your fantasy league, but he played. 11 carries for 62 yards and a touchdown. He did have 5 targets with 0 receptions. He didn't catch any balls, which is not good for your fantasy. Tyler Algier, 8 carries for 31 yards. You don't like to see it. He did not have opportunities you would like. The big one, I said DeAndre Hopkins would not have a good game this week against Atlanta because Atlanta has a decent defense. I was wrong. He went 4 for 6 for 128 and 3 touchdowns. He seemed like he was always open, and when he was open, he was at the end zone. So he looked really good. Drake London, 5 for 7 for 55. Kadero Hodge, 3 for 3 for 75. Scott Miller, 2 for 2 for 14 and a touchdown. And then you had the D-Hop, which was the 3 touchdowns. And then Nick Westbrook-Akine, 1 for 2 for 33 and a touchdown. And Kyle Phillips, who went 3 for 3 for 24 yards. Kade Okonkwo got 1 carry and 4 receptions off 6 targets for 23 yards. Kyle Pitts, 3 for 5 for 35. He was poopy. Didn't do much. It was a good game. I'm glad Tennessee won. Unfortunately, that means CJ does have to lose the bet, and he has to write on his forehead, which is funny for me. Then we go into the Philadelphia versus Washington game. This game was rough only because Washington was winning most of the game, but Philadelphia finally came back and finished the game. Both quarterbacks looked amazing. Jalen Hurts, 29 for 38 for 319 and 4. He did lose a fumble. And then Sam Howell, 39 for 52 for 397 and 4 and an interception. Sam Howell killed your fantasies. If you had him, good job. DeAndre Swift had 57 yards off 16 carries and a touchdown. And then Brian Robinson had 10 carries for 59 yards and 2 receptions from 2 targets for 20. Antonio Gibson had 5 receptions off 5 targets for 28 yards and 2 carries for 14, so he didn't do much. Kenneth Gainwell, he had 2 carries for -4 yards and 5 receptions off 5 targets for 30. He also had a fumble lost, and that's probably why he didn't see a lot of opportunities after that, because all the running was DeAndre Swift. A.J. Brown, 8 for 8 for 132. Holy cow. Was that a great game. I think this is his 7th game in a row where he's went over 125 yards. 7 games consecutively. That is amazing. Devontae Smith, I called it, saying that he would have a really good game. He went 7 for 7 for 99 and a touchdown. Looked great. Julio Jones got involved with a touchdown. Only one touchdown, one catch off 2 targets for 8 yards and a touchdown. And then Jahan Dotson, which we've been talking about for a while, 8 for 10 for 108 and a touchdown. Looked great. Scary Terry, 5 for 12 for 63 and a TD. Looked good. Jamison Crowder, 7 for 7 for 95 and a touchdown. Looked great. Curtis Samuel had a few targets, 4 for 4 for 22. Pringle, we joke about Pringle, 0 for 1 for nothing. Logan Thomas looked good, 6 for 8 for 44 and a touchdown. Dallas Goedert, I said he would have a good game. I was wrong. 4 for 7 for 36 yards. He didn't have much. But yeah, 38-31 Philadelphia. Now, the game that I said Cleveland would win. I think it was the Cleveland game. 20-24. Or it was. Anyways, 20 for 24. PJ Walker looked terrible. 15 for 31, 248 and a touchdown with 2 interceptions and a fumble lost. Geno Smith didn't look that great. 23 for 37, 254, 2 and 2. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He also had 2 carries for -3 yards. Kareem Hunt, 14 carries off 55 yards and a touchdown. Zach Charbonnet, 5 carries for 53 yards, so over 10 yards a carry. 2 for 2 off 11. Kenneth Walker had 8 carries for 66 yards. So they both were viable, which was surprising. They used them both about 50%, and neither of them really did much. Cleveland's defense is actually really good. Amari Cooper, 6 for 11 for 89. Elijah Moore, 2 for 5 for 30. Tyler Lockett, 8 for 9 for 81 yards and a touchdown. Great. Jackson Smith and Jigma finally got rolling, 3 for 4 for 36 and a touchdown. DK Metcalf, holy drops. This man had 14 targets. So you're thinking he's going to have a great game. Nope, 5 receptions for 67 yards. Not that great. David Njoku had a good game, 4 for 8 for 77 and a touchdown. Noah Fant didn't get much, 2 for 3 for 32 yards. It was a good game. Seattle 24-20. Baltimore and Arizona was a lot closer than people expected, 31-24. Lamar Jackson looked awful, 18 for 27 for 157 and 1. Josh Dobbs looked semi-good. He didn't look bad, but he didn't look amazing. He was 25 for 37, 208 and 2 with 2 interceptions, but he did have a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, so that saved his fantasy relevance. They could have won this game, but they made mistakes. Gus Edwards, 19 carries for 80 yards and 3 touchdowns. Holy touchdowns, Gus Edwards. He won the game for Baltimore. You take that away, they lose a lot. Emery DeMercado had not a good game. 20 carries for 78 yards. That's it. Hollywood Brown, 6 for 9 for 33 and a touchdown. Rashad Bateman, 1 carry for 18 and 2 for 2 for 34. Zay Flowers didn't have a good game. 5 for 7 for 19. Andrews, 4 for 5 for 40 yards and a touchdown. Not the best for your one of the best tight ends in the league. Terry McBride, 10 for 14 for 95 yards and a touchdown. Holy cow. 10 for 14. That's great. For almost 100 yards and a touchdown. Baltimore wins it, though. The upset of the week. Kansas City and Denver. 24-9 Denver. Holy cow. Patrick Mahomes, former MVP, touchdown season leader, Super Bowl champs Patrick Mahomes, 24 for 38 for 241 yards, 2 interceptions, and a fumble lost. Fantasy, he killed you. Russell Wilson looked good. 12 for 19 for 114. Saved the day with 3 touchdowns. He also had a fumble lost. Isaiah Pacheco had a poor game. 8 carries for 40 yards. Jerick McKinnon, 2 carries for a negative 2 yards and 1 reception for 11 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a carry for 4 yards. Jaleel McLaughlin, 4 carries for 33 and 2 receptions off 2 targets for 6. Javonte Williams looked good. 27 carries for 85 yards. 3 receptions from 3 targets for 13 yards and a touchdown. Rashee Rice, he didn't look bad, but he didn't look good. He did look good when he was on the field, but he didn't get a lot of opportunities. 5 targets, 4 receptions for 56. And then that's it. Kadarius Toney he had 1 carry, -3 yards, and 1 reception for 4 yards off 1 reception or 1 target. McCole Hardman was poor. Sky Moore was poor. MVS was poor. Like, you don't want the best receiver on their team was Rashee Rice, and he was only in the game for, he was in there for 61%, but it was an awful game for Patrick Mahomes and company. Even Travis Kelce, 6 for 9 for 58. It was not good. Jerry Jeudy, 2 for 6 for 50 and a touchdown. He could be on his way out. The deadline probably ended before this video actually uploads, so if he does trade, we'll maybe make a short. Cortland Sutton, 2 for 3 for 29 and a touchdown. Marvin Mims got involved, 1 reception for 0 yards. Tight ends didn't do anything. It was a weird game. But then we had the Cincinnati versus San Francisco game. Cincinnati winning 31-17. San Francisco losing their 3rd straight game. And Cincinnati winning their, 3rd straight game, which is crazy. Joe Burrow looked amazing. 28 for 32 for 283 and 3 against that San Francisco defense. I said he was going to look good. I picked him. He also had 6 carries for 43. He's starting to move and run around again, which is amazing. You want to see it. Brock Purdy didn't look good. He didn't look bad, but he didn't look good. He went 22 for 31 for 365 and 1 with 2 interceptions and a lost fumble. He had 6 carries for 57 yards. Didn't look terrible. Like, if you take the 2 interceptions away, it's a good day. Joe Mixon looked good. 16 carries for 87 yards and a touchdown. 3 for 3 in the air, 23 yards. Christian McCaffrey, he's a beast like always. 12 carries for 54 yards, a touchdown, and then 6 receptions off 7 targets for 64 and a touchdown. You like to see it. You're glad he played. He's looking good. He's not dying. It looks like the rib injury is not killing him. Jamar Chase, another excellent game. 2 carries for -8 yards. Just kidding. He did have that, but he went 10 for 12 through the air for 100 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Boyd, 1 carry for 6 yards and 3 for 3 for 40 and a touchdown. T. Higgins finally got involved. 5 for 6 for 69. Whoop, whoop, 69. Just kidding. Don't monetize me, please. Brandon Ayuk, 5 for 9 for 109 yards. Kittle, I called it. Said he was going to get involved. Boy, did he. 9 for 11 for 149. I called it. Isaiah Smith got 4 for 4 for 25 yards and a fumble. It was a good game. I called it. Said Cincinnati was going to win, and they did. Oh, this was the game. It wasn't the Browns. It was the Bears, and I did lose. 30-13. Chargers beat the Bears. Tyson Bagent, I was wrong. He flopped. 25 for 37 for 232 and 2 interceptions. He did have a rushing touchdown. 4 carries for -1 yard and a touchdown. Don't make sense, but it does. Justin Herbert on the other side of the ball looked incredible. 31 for 40 for 298 and 3. Looked good. Austin Eckler, good as always. Didn't look good on the ground, but in the air he picked up 15 carries for 29 yards and 7 for 8 for 94 and a touchdown. He did drop the ball, though. He did fumble. And then we have Darrington Evans, 4 carries for 18 yards and a touchdown. Deonta Foreman got involved. He's honorable mention. Josh Kelly got involved. Not much. There's not much there. Wide receivers, DJ Moore. I put him on my DFS. We'll talk about that later. But 4 for 6 for 55. Not what you like to see from the number 1 wide receiver. Darnell Mooney got involved. 1 for 4 for 41. He had a long ball. Quentin Johnston for the Chargers. 5 for 6 for 50. Keenan Allen, 8 for 10 for 69. Josh Palmer, 3 for 4 for 24. The tight ends, Cole Kmet looked good. 10 for 10 for 79. Donald Parham didn't look bad. 4 for 5 for 43 and a touchdown. It was a good game, but 30-13 to the Chargers. I was wrong. I hoped I was right, but I wasn't. Monday night's game, the Raiders versus Detroit, 26-14. Detroit is on a storm, 6-2. They're looking good. They're ahead of the 49ers, the Bengals. I mean, they're rolling. Jared Goff did not look good. He did not. 26 for 37 for 272 and 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Jimmy G. Why is he a starting quarterback? I do not get it. I tell CJ we argue about this. He picks up Jimmy G. He is a bad quarterback. Oh my God. 10 for 21 for 126 and 1. Devontae Adams in this game was so furious. It was unreal. Jimmy G is not the quarterback that they need. They were better off with Derek Carr. Jahmyr Gibbs. Holy cow, did this man run the ball. 26 for 152 and 1. 5 for 5 for 37. Jahmyr Gibbs is a workhorse. He is a runner. I can't wait for David Montgomery to come back. I hope he takes back over. But if not, Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy. Craig Reynolds also had a good day. Detroit had over 200 yards on the ground. Craig Reynolds, 14 carries for 74. He ran the ball too. Amon St. Brown, 6 for 9 for 108. You like to see it. Hunter Renfrow. Jacoby Myers. Devontae Adams. This is the only one I want to talk about. 7 targets, 1 reception for 11 yards. One of the clips that you see from this game is Devontae Adams furious on the sideline, throwing his helmet on the ground. It is awful. It's not what you want to see. It was not a good game. Sam Laporta looked excellent. 8 for 10 for 57 and a touchdown. He got in the end zone again. It was a great game for Detroit for their defense all around. Other than Jared Goff. Jared Goff didn't look great, but the run game and the defense looked incredible. We're going to talk about injuries. Desmond Ridder left the game after getting hit in the head. He cleared protocol but did not return. Devontae Parker ruled out with a head injury after helmet-to-helmet in the third quarter. It was a nasty hit. Kendrick Bourne, New England, tore his ACL. He will be out for the season. Josh Palmer injured his knee but later finished the game, so he's probably day-to-day. He'll probably take a few days off through the week, and he'll be good to go by the end of the week. Kenny Pickett, rib injury. Mitch Trubisky came in and finished the game. Says he will play next week against the Titans. Don't ever listen to what the player says. Just follow the news on the injury updates and stuff. Follow the teams that you follow, and you'll know. You can't go by what a player says because a lot of times they don't know. Drake London went down with a nasty groin injury. Head coach says it isn't serious. Darren Waller has a hamstring injury. Originally stated that he re-aggravated his hamstring, but come to find out it is in a different location, so now he's dealing with 2 hamstring injuries, which is not good. Matthew Stafford went down with a UCL sprain, but he's day-to-day. And Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. He will be out for the remainder of the season. Unfortunately, that gets us into the trades. And one of the newest trades is Josh Dobbs. He's getting traded to Minnesota to take over for Kirk Cousins. It's actually a good move. They'll get a mobile quarterback. They don't want to start Nick Mullins after he gets off IR. He'll probably be the backup. Their rookie might start this week, but if they can get Josh Dobbs a small playbook, he might actually get to start this Sunday since it was an early pickup on Tuesday. He still has all week to practice. Chase Young, Washington, trades to Kansas City. Holy cow, Kansas City. They be getting players. Chase Young's a beast. Sack machine. This is great for Kansas City. They love getting players. Now, I wanted to do this with CJ, but I'm going to go ahead and go over it. Our DFS lineup. I am currently 0-2. I lost again to CJ. We're going to go down his team, and then we'll go through mine. He picked Lamar Jackson, which we obviously talked about earlier. Was poor, but he had 11.9 points. He also picked up Jahmyr Gibbs, who obviously was a animal, 32.9. Breece Hall, 21 points. He was on fire. Rashee Rice, 10 points. Christian Kirk was cold with 8. Deontay Johnson got him 16. Jake Ferguson got him 15. He picked Jordan Addison, who also got 21, and the Ravens defense, who 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, only had 6 points, for a fantasy total of 142.98. Now, if we remember from last episode, I picked up Tyson Bagent. He got 13 points. Not good. Alvin Kamara was a workhorse, got me 27, but with him having Jahmyr Gibbs, did not help. And then I took Alexander Madison, who was ice cold. DJ Moore, who only got 10 points. Brandon Ayuk, who looked good, got a solid 18.9. But with Christian Kirk only getting 8.6, Dallas Goedert got 7.6. Scary Terry got 17, and then the Falcons D only got me 3 points, so a whopping 109.38 to 142.98. He smoked me. Holy cow. Did he whoop me? He did really well, which is good. So he's 2-0. Unfortunately, I lose to him a lot. He's really good at picking teams, and we love you guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. We'll be dropping another episode in a few days for Thursday Night Football. Be tuned for that. We're also going to be doing a head-to-head mock redraft to see if how we would stack up now, knowing the information we know now, especially after the injuries that happened. We're also going to be talking about Sunday's games and Monday for next week. And again, we love you. Peace.